Last week, I interviewed Tara with a reclaimed ranch and discussed how she turned thrifting into a business. If you love thrifting, this is definitely an episode you guys want to listen to. Now, in this week's episode, I'm going to chat about becoming a picky thrifter. Do you have no self control in a thrift store? That used to be me. I would get in that thrift store, you guys, and I would want to rescue everything. So, I'm going to talk about how I've become a picky thrifter, which has helped me have more balance in my business. And let's dive in.
Welcome to the Rescued and Upcycled podcast with weekly inspiration, tips on trying new techniques, and overall real talk about owning your own DIY business. Now here's your host, Sonnet Ullenbrock.
Welcome back to Rescued and Upcycled. I'm your host, Sonnet Ullenbrock. I want to thank you guys all for joining me today on my podcast. Now, this is episode 14, and if you are new here, welcome. Every other week, I interview different creatives and small business owners. The opposite weeks, I love to chat about different aspects of owning and running a small business. Now, this week's episode, I am going to dive into how I became a picky thrifter. You may be asking yourself, what in the heck is a picky thrifter? Well, I used to get into that thrift store and have no self control. I'd want to rescue every single thing that I saw. I had a creative vision, you guys, for each and every piece, and I just could never leave anything behind. Now, don't get me wrong, I still have days where I leave with cartfuls of goodies, but with those cartfuls, I'm still a bit pickier. What I now call my inventory, I used to actually call my hoard. It was absolutely out of control. And I know many of you that are listening to this right now can definitely relate to what I'm saying. And if you're you may be in denial. I don't know. But most, I think, could probably relate to how or what I'm talking about. But I just love to thrift and upcycle. And the one thing that I dread is the after. So the cleaning the item, the pricing the item. I love to upcycle, but it's still then I have to price that item. And I feel like pricing just takes so much time. When your inventory starts to pile up and then you have so much inventory, pricing does become a bit overwhelming. Now, this hoard didn't happen overnight. It took a little bit, you guys. So over time, I was adding so much to my also known as inventory that it started to take over areas. It started off small. For instance, I remember one fall, I thought, I'll just store a few items temporarily in my greenhouse. But eventually it became a storage unit. So I don't even use it currently as a greenhouse after I temporarily put that first item there. So that is one of the items or one of the areas that I still have to tackle. Um, but it not only took over my greenhouse, after that, it took over a portion of my garage, a portion of my basement. And at one point, honestly, I didn't even know what I had because some were still in bags, or in the middle of my greenhouse or in the way back area of my basement. And so I never even had a clue what was there. In my membership group, though, right away at the beginning of my membership, what we did is we started a program or a process where each year we sit down right away at the beginning of the year and we set goals. And then along with those goals, we also pick an area to organize. As small business owners, we are always on the go. And doesn't the beginning of the year just feel like a clean slate? Like just like you're starting over fresh. So what we've done every year, like I said, since the beginning of my membership, is we do this. And it's amazing how many spaces that each and every one of us have reclaimed or have organized for our small businesses just by doing a little each and every year. So some members have even gone on thrifting hiatuses so they can work through their hoard or their so-called inventory. It feels so refreshing for them. What they like to do is they basically start working through that inventory over that 3 months. They also, at that same time, are organizing their inventory. And so they've taken off like that first quarter. To be honest, I couldn't do it. This year, a majority of them all went on a 3-month hiatus or like that first quarter. And I'm like, I can't. I cannot commit to that. And one gal actually made it till May. I was really surprised. But honestly, if you think about it, it's crazy how things just build up over the year. So each year we all start off with a clean slate or what we call or our organization in whatever area. And by the end of the year, it is already, in shambles. So during this organizational challenge, what we had to do this year is we had 1 month to complete whatever area we chose. So we had to pick an area, we had to take a before photo, and then we had to take an after photo. So it really held us accountable. Heather from Create Your Own Cozy, her strategy was just a little different than mine. She recommended to the group, why don't you guys do what I'm doing? Just take an hour a day to work on that area. Well, as she got started, she realized, once she got going, an hour didn't seem so daunting. And she actually went for a couple hours. So doing the organization in much more smaller increments was a lot easier for many of the members of the group. Well, now me, you guys, I waited a bit longer than I probably should have to start this challenge. But as the fearless leader of the membership group, I had to take on the challenge with everyone else. Plus, I really needed it. The area that I chose was a portion of my basement that had become my catch-all. Now, if I didn't know what to do with something, it would go in the basement area. Nobody's gonna see it. I'm just gonna put it in the basement area. Like if I was cleaning up after a big project and I needed everything on the first floor totally organized, I would just put it in the basement. Well, this basement area became the biggest catch-all. And I can honestly say it was horrendous, okay? This is the area of my basement that got so bad, and I knew I had to get it cleaned, and I wanted to do it during this challenge. So how I decided to tackle this area is to take everything out of that basement and then organize it in clear bins. Now, I chose clear for a couple reasons. I'm going to label all of them as well. But when you have a colored tote, once that item goes in a colored tote, it is like gone forever. And it is so easy to see through the clear totes or the clear bins that at least at a quick glance, I know what's in there. So that is the first thing I did is I started with clear bins. So I went and I bought just a bunch of clear bins. I also started on a Saturday morning, and what I did is I put a majority of the bins in my driveway. So I just put them all outside my back door, and I kind of knew I was going to categorize them. And I'm sure my neighbors were like, what the heck is she doing now? I'm sure they were all peeking through their blinds, looking at me. And so I started, and basically I went downstairs and I just started on one side, and I just took armful by armful up the stairs, and I categorized each of the bins. So one bin was Christmas, one was fall. I had some for greenery, baskets, glassware, things I still needed to upcycle. Everything just had a spot. well, or a bin. Both my recyclable containers, though, and my garbage bins were full as well. So as I was going through these items and pulling them out of bags, I would get rid of the bags, or if they were in boxes, I would, break down the box and throw that away. So I was trying to recycle as much as I possibly could, or get just, toss things that were broken, or half like if it wasn't, if I was not going to use it and it was junk, it was gone. I worked on this for 2 days, you guys. So I definitely got my steps in. I probably should have had my watch on. I didn't, but up and down the stairs I went. And after the 2 days, the basement was empty and everything was completely organized in these bins. It was like crazy, like to look and realize like all of that was in these bins and they were organized. Everything was categorized. So I knew like it was going to be so easy for me to pull things and I knew what I had. At that point, it was very eye opening that I had been to the dollar store many a times. I bought far too many eggs. I bought far too many, just there's certain things that I just bought too much of, and I don't know what I was thinking. Well, I was thinking that I didn't have them, and I just kept buying more. So I have to work through those bins of like eggs and just different items from the dollar store in the next couple years. I probably have enough eggs to last a lifetime. So last summer, I did get a storage unit. And you guys, this was honestly one of my best decisions I made to get organized. I remember posting a picture of me getting the storage unit, and I was so excited. I posted it on all my social media platforms, and there was one comment that actually stuck out right from the beginning. Get shelving. It will pay off in the end. And that was such a true statement, you guys. Having shelving makes the biggest difference for organization. And what I also recommend is good heavy duty shelving. Have something that can hold a lot of stuff. So I had gone to the local Menards and I found shelving units that you could build yourself. So you could determine how tall you wanted it, how long each of the shelves, exactly like how wide, everything. You could figure out exactly what you wanted. And that is exactly what I did. And I started with a couple and I just kept adding to it. So after I had everything in the driveway, and all the bins were all, like all these bins were there, the totes were all organized. All I had to do then was bring them to the storage unit. And what I determined is I wanted to create an area all for my Christmas, fall, things that I do need to upcycle. So everything is completely organized in my storage unit and right on these shelves. So it just feels so good now to know where everything is. And when I go to fill like a booth, or need an item to upcycle, I know exactly where I can grab it. Because of my membership challenge, and what I went through to get organized, now this has really led for me to be a much more pickier or picky thrifter. I now have a better organization and understanding of what I already have in my inventory and what I should be looking for. And on top of that, I don't feel like I need to rescue every single item. I sometimes put items in my cart, but I definitely go through my cart and then, before I'm checking out. So that's what is nice because I can go, do I really need this? Do I need another set of candlesticks? Do I need, whatever it is, XYZ? And that has just been huge for me to really stay in check with my inventory. The other thing I've challenged myself to do is after thrifting, I figure out what I'm going to do with each of these items. So on my last few thrift hauls, I actually have bins sitting right there. So I always have some extra bins and I separate them right away. So I put each item where it needs to be. So whether it be like holiday or Christmas, if it's going to be fall, if I can just resell as is, or do I want to upcycle this piece? After I separate it, then I clean each of the items, I price them right away, and then they go into the booth that way. So, like all my Christmas goes into the Christmas section. So, when the holidays hit, it is going to be perfect. All I need to do is go over to the holiday shelving area, grab all those bins, pull them down, bring them home, and then I can go through them, figure out which items I want in each one of my booths, what else do I need to add to it, and it's ready for the holiday vignette. Now, the other thing is as I am upcycling my items, so if you've been watching any of my YouTube videos, I tend to try to coordinate my video or my thrift to treasure video as a vignette. And what has been happening prior to this is that the items would end up in my studio and I would just have a bunch of items there. Well, now what I have is over at my storage unit, I actually have an entire shelving unit dedicated to just that for upcoming booth flips and vignettes. And so what I do is I try to keep all of those together. And as I'm, upcycling and trying to figure out my next booth flip, I am putting all those things on that shelf so that it is ready for that next booth flip. This saves so much time when I go to restock my booths. I can't even tell you. In the past, what I would do is I'd be like scrambling around. I'd be like digging through stuff. What do I have? And imagine how much time I am saving just on that. Now, I know many of you are in the same boat as I was, along with many of the members in my group. And, honestly, you guys, I challenge each and every one of you to do the same thing that I have done. Pick an area, get it organized, and try to become a picky thrifter. When I first started to clean out my basement, I actually felt that I needed to be on the show hoarders. I can honestly laugh a little bit about it now, but honestly, I needed to get my act together. And thank goodness for my membership group. They really held me accountable. I know that they always say I hold them accountable, but it goes both ways. So, right away when I knew that I had to be that fearless leader and I had to take the same challenge that they did, that was holding myself accountable or they were holding me accountable. Just doing, I don't like to tell them to do something unless I'm doing it too. So that has really helped. Now, the next plan of attack, I did mention this earlier, is my greenhouse. Last fall, I tackled my garage and I got a big majority of that all cleaned and organized. I still have to put those things the rest of the way in totes and get those over to my storage unit as well. But my greenhouse is going to be another like unload it all and figure out what I have in there. And so I can reclaim that space. And I want to do that by the end of the summer. That has actually been on my to-do list for, I think it's been 2 years, honestly. It's been so backburnered because other things keep coming up. But this year, I'm taking back my greenhouse, you guys. And I just recommend sitting down and writing out goals, and set the goals and then stick to them. That's what my members in the group do as well. We like to really set our goals, take a look every quarter at them, and just see how we're doing. And so these items are part of my goals. So I am going to definitely stick to them. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I know it's been real short and sweet, but I think that you can apply some of the things that I have spoke about in your own business as well. Now, in next week's episode, I am going to be interviewing Rachel from the Eclectic Cottage, and we are going to be discussing her small business and creative journey. I am honestly completely inspired every time I see one of Rachel's amazing vignettes, and I know you guys are going to love her and her vignettes just as much as I do. Now, if you guys are listening on any of the podcast platforms, don't forget, rate, review, and subscribe so you guys don't miss out on an episode. You'll also find me on Instagram and Facebook at Sonnets Garden Blooms, where I post a ton more content over there. And I really hope you've enjoyed today's episode, but we'll see you guys next week. Bye.